So yeah, Cave of Wonders collapses on you if you happen to touch any of the foreground treasures here. Apparently, the piles of gold that Aladdin's just walking around on. Well, okay, there was no reason for me to be running there other than impatience, I guess. But okay, we can take things slowly and try not to die this time. But anyways, so as far as the graphics of this game go, it looks really super impressive for an 8-bit game to me. Like, yeah, compared to stuff I'm familiar with, like on the Nintendo, this looks like way better than any like NES games I can think of. But then again, I'm not really familiar with what the Master System's capabilities were. So for all I know, this level of graphical detail is just like bog standard for the Sega Master System, and the Master System could have just been like always just always had better looking games than the NES for all I know. And you know, it's a system I'm kind of interested in investigating a little bit, just because of my absolute ignorance on it. And in fact, it was a long time before I even knew what a Master System was. Maybe some of you guys don't know what it is. So the Master System was basically the Sega's competitor to the NES, basically, back in the day. It was Sega's 8-bit console, which was apparently very popular in Britain and South America, apparently. Master System, very successful in those territories. I don't think I still think that the NES outperformed it, but even in places where it was considered popular, but nevertheless, I don't know, I know a lot of British YouTubers, there are several sort of British YouTubers that I follow who are big into the Master System games, but yeah, this is kind of my first, in fact, yeah, this is literally my first exposure to it as far as actually playing a Master System game. This is the first one I've played on the, or I won't say original hardware, because this is obviously an emulator, but this section in particular, I was expecting this to be a nightmare when I played it on the Game Gear just recently. But yeah, I was really surprised, like, because yeah, on the Game Gear you have a lot less, it's like maybe about half the, yeah, I'd say about half the screen space to work with on the Game Gear, but even so, you still, even for this section, that's still enough space to sort of react to everything that's coming at you. And you do actually die instantly here if you run into the walls. So, and yeah, for that reason I was expecting it to be like a total pain in the butt, but yeah, the game, like I said, the Game Gear version of this game, actually not so bad. Holds up pretty decently, I think. Oh, here it is. Classic line. Actually, they kept in a lot of like the sort of the best lines in this movie. So I think they, were good as far as selecting which dialogue from the movie they wanted to keep. But yeah, that your eternal reward. I was just talking about how I'm terrible at doing voices. I don't know why I tried it there, but yeah, that was a good line from the film. I think I can't remember what else, but that's, anyways, I'm just commenting on stuff that I see. So far it looks like they were pretty good as far as what they chose to keep in. As if I'm even reading most of this stuff. A lot smaller than my last master. I don't know what that means. Was like the genie, like, master, or was the genie's last master, like, part of a race of giants or something? Like, how much smaller are we talking exactly? I don't know. Kind of interesting if you think of that way. And again, kind of interesting is just sort of my catch-all filler phrase for not very interesting at all. I just don't have much to talk about. My sound's cutting out on my headphones right now. Hopefully that isn't gonna carry over onto the video, but you know, technical issues, who really cares? And again, we actually, as I remember, I think we actually have a fair bit of cutscenes to go until the next scene, because we're in Agrabah Palace is going to be the next level after this. But so what else is there to say about this, really? Actually, this game's approach to combat is also very different from the other two versions of this game. So on the Genesis version, Aladdin had a sword that on every level, in fact, he had a sword that he could use, and it was kind of a hack and slash type game, really, a bit more of an action game as opposed to a platformer. Whereas the Super Nintendo version, you jumped on enemies and you didn't actually have any weapon of any description other than, or I think you could throw apples in both versions of the game, actually. Whereas in this version of the game, you don't really have combat at all, just really a bunch of obstacles that you have to avoid. Which is, I was almost going to say interesting, and now I'm trying to think of what else I can say instead of that. But, you know, it's a difference, certainly. Yeah, okay, so maybe just to come down on one side or the other of the debate. Personally, I prefer I think the Super Nintendo version of Aladdin was the best one. And I did actually play both versions, back in the day. And actually, back in the day, I preferred the Genesis one, just because the Genesis... I was a Genesis kid back in the day. I eventually owned a Super Nintendo years later, but the Genesis was the one I owned for longer than that. I got a Super Nintendo like a year before the PlayStation came out. And so, yeah, I just basically did a bit of catching up on that before I got my next gen console there. And, I sort of had this sort of disdainful... I kind of looked down on SNES games, even though I owned a SNES, just because, you know, I was a Genesis kid, so even though I had a SNES and wanted to check out what was on that system, I still kind of looked down on SNES games, just because, I don't know, just blind prejudice on account of my having owned a Genesis for so many years prior to that. So, yeah, here we are in the Agrippa Palace level, and so, yeah, this is pretty much the closest thing you have to combat in this game, is you can pick up stones and throw them at the palace guards here. And, yeah, that's pretty much, and you can't even kill them that way, you just kind of stun them for a moment. And, you actually have a handy little, inventory, sort of, in the upper right here, which you actually don't have in the Game Gear version. Because, again, you don't have the screen space. You don't have that extra space at the top of the screen there. So, which was an annoyance I actually had with the Game Gear version. You couldn't actually see how many stones you had left in your inventory. So it's like, or at least in one instance, I found I went to try and throw a stone at a guard, and I was out. And I didn't know beforehand that I was out because no stone counter. So I guess that's one small improvement that they made. Or I guess one small way that the Master System version is improved over the Game Gear one. Although, okay, this level is actually surprisingly long compared to, especially considering how short this game is. Like, by volume, this game, or this level, makes up like a considerable percentage of the gameplay length of the entire game. This is like easily more than twice as long as any other level in the game. There's something funny that can happen here, but okay, never mind. Sometimes the guard will sort of see you even though you're walking above overhead, and what'll happen is he'll run forward and the chandelier will fall on his head. And that's kind of funny when that happens, but I don't know why it didn't happen that time. On the test playthrough, it just happened without me having to do anything. But, yeah, even though I say this is the longest level in the game, it's still not really that long at all. I think we're about maybe close to halfway through here. And actually, we're over halfway through the game at this point, if you can believe... Oh, we've got a key here. And again, that same situation... Wait, no, this isn't that same situation, because, yeah, there was only one way for us to go. Although, interesting, and I do mean... just sort of unusual bit of level design here, where you gotta loop around underneath and get a key to open a door to get out of a room with another key. It's just I don't know, weirdly intricate level design in that just one collection of screens. And here, yeah, he can see you through the wall here. Oh, his little idle animation, I never even noticed that. Oh, and I never got a chance to see his... I don't know, for some reason I'm just obsessed with those kinds of little graphical details in old games, and oh, yeah, this is that situation. So one of these, I either go one way to get the key and one way to find the door that key unlocks. I'm pretty sure this was the way to the key. But, Yeah, I don't know why. I just love those little details. Or I'm gonna play it safe. I just love looking at idle animations and that kind of stuff in video games, which is I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't get to see what his animation would have been in his regular clothes. Oh. What's with all of these holes all over the palace anyways? Those are like, is there like some renovation going on or something? Or is it just like, I don't know. I don't understand what the point of all these health pickups in this level are either. So if you do get hit by the guards in this level, I forgot to mention this, yeah, getting caught by the guards here is instant death. You will get a game over if you get caught by the guards. So, and the guards are the only hazard in this level, so really... Or actually, no, that's not true. The falling chandeliers, I guess, can deplete your health. Although I don't think there are even enough falling chandeliers in that level for you to die, so it's like, yeah, the health pickups are completely pointless. Oh, and here, this is great coming up. This is my... Or, I guess coming up in a while, because again, the cutscene, talkie nonsense in this game. And yeah, they kept the prize to be one line. Yeah, they really did a decent job, I think, of sort of just paring down like the script of the Aladdin movie to just the essentials to convey just sort of what the movie is about. And I've got to remember to actually be hitting buttons here so that the text here doesn't drag on forever. That was a kind of an unnecessary addition. I think we could have done without "Let's get rid of Prince Boo." Okay, so, and again, just to, I'm just gonna keep contrasting this with the other two versions of this game, just because I think that's kind of the most really the only way to make this, to really sort of have anything of interest to say about this game, since I've kind of covered almost everything already. So like I said, the Genesis version just pretty much ignored all of the story bits of the movies, and it just had like a bunch of levels, and so the Genesis version of Aladdin didn't do anything with the magic carpet ride scene or the whole new world scene. They just ignored it and skipped over it completely. The Super Nintendo version actually had made a really nice little bit out of it, so it was kind of like a bonus stage where it was just like no hazards or obstacles or anything. You'd just be flying on your magic carpet with the 16-bit version of A Whole New World playing. And, yeah, you just fly on your carpet in an auto-scrolling section and collect some gems. It was kind of like a bonus stage. Whereas, in this version of the game, it's,